We begin with breaking news as Israel and Hamas have agreed to the first phase of a ceasefire and hostage deal that could pave the way for an end to the bloody and brutal 15-month war and the release of American hostages. You are looking here at reactions to the news of the agreement, which was celebrated by Palestinians in Gaza and Israelis in Tel Aviv. U.S. and Qatari officials announced the contours of the deal this afternoon, which is set to happen in 3 phases, starting with a 6-week ceasefire that would see the withdrawal of Israeli forces from populated areas in Gaza and the release of women, elderly and wounded hostages held by Hamas in exchange for the release of Palestinian prisoners. President Biden says American hostages will be among those released in this first phase. There are 3 American citizens being held in Gaza who are still believed to be alive, and we will speak to the father of one of those hostages in just a moment. In his remarks announcing the deal, President Biden laid out the details of the next 2 phases of the agreement, which are still being negotiated. We should note he accidentally referred to Hamas as Hezbollah during part of his remarks.
More than 15 months of conflict that began with Hezbollah's brutal massacre on October the 7th. More than 15 months of terror for the hostages, their families, the Israeli people. More than 15 months of suffering by the innocent people of Gaza. Fighting in Gaza will stop, and soon the hostages will return home to their families. You know, during the next 6 weeks, Israel will negotiate the necessary arrangements to get phase 2, which is a permanent end of the war. Let me say it again, a permanent end of the war. Then, when phase 2 begins, there will be an exchange for release of the remaining living hostages, including male soldiers, and all remaining Israeli forces will be withdrawn from Gaza, and the temporary ceasefire will become permanent. And finally, phase 3, any final remains of hostages who have been killed will be returned to their families, and a major reconstruction plan for Gaza will begin.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office says there are still some unresolved details that they hope to finalize tonight. Israel's Supreme Court would then have 24 hours to appeal this agreement, meaning the earliest phase 1 could take effect would be Friday, with the first group of hostages being released on Sunday, a day before Donald Trump takes office. The president-elect celebrating the deal on social media after publicly threatening that all hell would break loose if a deal wasn't reached by the time he took office. President Biden crediting Trump's Middle East envoy, who's been part of negotiations in recent days, as an important voice in these talks, noting unity between the outgoing administration and the incoming one.
I'd also note this deal was developed and negotiated under my administration, but its terms will be implemented, for the most part, by the next administration. In these past few days, we've been speaking as one team. This has been time of real turmoil in the Middle East. But as I prepare to leave office, our friends are strong, our enemies are weak, and there's a genuine opportunities for a new future.
The agreement, if all 3 phases are realized, could mark the end of a brutal and deadly war. 1,200 people were killed by Hamas during its attack on October 7th, 2023. That is according to Israeli officials. The Hamas-run Palestinian Health Ministry says more than 46,000 Palestinians have been killed in the ensuing war. Joining me now to start us all off to talk about this ceasefire deal is NBC international correspondent Ralph Sanchez, who's been reporting on this war since it began with Hamas's attack on October 7th. NBC's Aaron Gilchrist is outside of the White House, and NBC's chief foreign affairs correspondent Andrea Mitchell is here on set with me. Ralph, I have to start with you. What more can you tell us about how this deal came together?
Well, Kristen, these were marathon negotiations in Doha, Qatar, and they went down right to the wire. The cameras were actually rolling in the foreign ministry in Doha early this afternoon, and everyone expected the prime minister to come out and announce this agreement was sealed. But there was a last-minute hitch, a disagreement about Israeli forces leaving the Egypt-Gaza border. It's been one of the most contentious parts of these negotiations. And instead, that room remained empty for several hours while the prime minister went back to his office with the Hamas delegation and ironed out these final details. As you mentioned, President Biden talking about how this was an effort both of his administration, but also the incoming Trump administration. And you had Brett McGurk, his top Middle East advisor, in those negotiating rooms alongside Steve Witkoff, who is President-elect Trump's Middle East envoy. And officials briefed on the talk say it was extremely important for that unified front. You had both the present and the incoming administration showing that they were committed to this deal. In terms of what comes next, we are expecting Prime Minister Netanyahu to bring this deal to his cabinet likely tomorrow. It will need to pass through the Security Cabinet and then need to pass through the General Cabinet. What will be really critical is how the far right in his government reacts. We know that the most extreme minister in his government, Itamar Ben-Gvir, plans to oppose this deal. We will see whether other members of the far right do. But the expectation is that Prime Minister Netanyahu does have the votes to pass this agreement and that it will go into effect on Sunday. Kristen.
And Raf, just help us understand, you've been covering this war since it began. What does this mean both for Israel and the Palestinians if this, in fact, does go forward, the ceasefire agreement, if some of the hostages are finally released?
Well, Kristen, this hostage crisis has been an open wound for Israel. October 7th was an unprecedented trauma, but in some ways it never ended because there were still Israelis being held inside of Gaza, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters. And so for the people of Israel, there is a hope that this will finally bring some closure. This will finally be an end to October 7th when that last hostage comes out of Gaza. In terms of the suffering of the Palestinian people of Gaza, the 2 million civilians who have been caught in the crossfire here, there are very few words to describe what they have gone through over the last 15 months or so. I have been inside Gaza 5 times since the start of the war with the Israeli military. In every direction, as far as the eye can see, the destruction is comprehensive. The majority of homes are destroyed in many of the big population centers like Gaza City. The healthcare system is collapsed. You have people who have not had enough food, not had enough medicine. You've had babies literally freezing to death as the winter sets in recent weeks. So this is desperately needed relief for the Palestinian people inside of Gaza, and they are hoping and praying tonight that this ceasefire will hold. Kristen.
Raf Sanchez, as always, thank you so much for your great reporting. We really appreciate it. Aaron, let me turn to you now, covering the White House. This deal coming just hours before President Biden set to give his final farewell address from the White House. You've been talking to your sources there inside the administration. What do they say this moment means?
Well, Kristen, I think this is an incredibly significant moment for President Biden, for this administration. We know that it's important for a couple of different reasons. Obviously, for the family, the hostages and the families of the hostages that have been involved in this for more than a year now, particularly for the American families that have been involved in this. We know that President Biden has spoken with different members of these families several times over the course of the last year. We know that there are still 7 Americans that are being held inside Gaza, 4 of whom the State Department says is still alive. And so for President Biden, it's been critically important to try to get this done for those families. At the same time, as you take a look at the larger foreign policy work of this president, we know that he said at the beginning, and he repeated this week, that he believes that American leadership really is paramount to global success and security. And so we've seen him take action as it relates to Ukraine. We've seen him take action in the Indo-Pacific. But really what's been happening in the Middle East has been at the center, if you will, of his efforts as it relates to foreign policy. And so seeing this deal come together, a second deal, we know the first one came together shortly after the initial attack on October 7th, 2023. Seeing this deal come together now with 5 days, Kristen, left in this administration is something that is very important to this president, something that he desperately wanted to see happen before he leaves office. And I would imagine, Kristen, we will hear him talk more about it in his final Oval Office address tonight.
I anticipate we will. That's a really good point. Aaron, let me ask you about the fact that President-elect Trump claiming responsibility, taking the credit for this getting over the finish line. He did have his Middle East envoy in the room there, and you heard President Biden talk about the fact that that was significant. What role is the administration saying President Biden's team played in reaching this agreement?
You know, it's really interesting when you listen to how the Biden administration has been talking about this interaction with the transition team for President-elect Trump. Obviously, you noted the president-elect went to his social media platform almost immediately after we heard that Hamas had agreed to this deal and said that it was an epic success and said that it wouldn't have been possible had he not won the election. So you set that aside. You have President Biden come before the cameras. You had his press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, who is still, I think, in her briefing. We saw the State Department briefing happen as well. And in each of those instances, you heard them say that President Biden and his team built the framework for this deal. They put it out there in May of last year, and this is the deal that ultimately was agreed to today. There's that. And then the president and all these other people have said that Steve Witkoff, President-elect Trump's Middle East envoy, has been on the ground in the room side by side with Brett McGurk, the president's coordinator for the Middle East, working on the final details of this deal, which we understand really just came together in the last 96 hours or so, and that he was a key partner in that effort, that they wanted to make sure that there had been two teams that were speaking as one team effectively, knowing that the incoming administration will be the one that is a guarantor of this deal as it goes forward, Kristen.
All right, Aaron Gilchrist at the White House, thank you so much. Look forward to your reporting throughout the evening, including on President Biden's farewell address. Let me turn now to Andrea Mitchell. Andrea, how extraordinary this development is. Just your reaction and key takeaways about how this came together for you.
Well, you and I have been together on this since October 7th. And it's so dramatic. It's so emotional for those families, for those of us who've spent so much time with them. I've been on so many missions with Secretary Blinken and with the others going back and forth to all the countries in the region. You realize how fragile this all was. They thought it had all come together at 3 o'clock this morning in Doha. On the second floor, you had the Israeli, American, and Qatari negotiators. 2 floors down, you had the Hamas team, the same building. They thought it had all come together. They're celebrating. And then a couple of hours later, Hamas comes back with some more negotiating demands, some last-minute haggling, as you heard Rolf say, over that key corridor, the Philadelphia corridor, which is where Israel is supposed to withdraw from rather the populated areas in central Egypt, central Gaza, and have the remaining forces in that Philadelphia corridor and then in another buffer zone until there can be an Arab or a Palestinian force that comes in. But the emotions of all of this that finally came together, Steve Witkoff was important in those last 96 hours, not in the room, the actual room where it was happening, but going back and forth and coming up with some key ideas, according to the Israelis, in these last moments.
Well, it's fascinating to hear your reporting on this, Andrea. And you think about phase 2. This is phase 1 we're talking about. And again, as Rolf laid out, the Israeli cabinet has to approve it. And of course.
And I'm told that's going to be almost automatic.
OK, that's an important detail. So these hostages could potentially start coming home in the next few days. And then I guess the question, Andrea, becomes how difficult will it be to get a phase 2?
Well, it's going to be difficult because this whole thing has been difficult, as what happened in these last 24 hours tells you. It fell apart July 31st when Israel attacked Hania, the Hamas negotiator, in Tehran. It then fell apart and came to a complete halt again on August 31st when Hirsch Goldberg was killed and 5 others in the tunnels in Rafah. So that was a complete breakdown. What then changed was Israel going after Hezbollah, destroying Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the big change there. And then the fall of the Assad regime and also the weakening of Iran with Israel's counterattack against Iran and getting out many of Iran's air defenses. So Iran is weakened. They're the Hamas sponsors. Hamas finally really came to the table. Brett McGurk went back. He's been there endlessly. He was back over the Christmas holidays up until Christmas and then back again. And Steve Witkoff joined about 4 or 5 days ago, and in the last 96 hours was terribly important. I think to get it to phase 2 is going to be difficult, but that the ceasefire will continue as long as negotiations are continuing, and we are going to at least see the initial wounded women, hostages coming out potentially this weekend.
And that brings me to my next question, Andrea. What are you learning about which hostages are going to be released first? And Americans are expected to be a part of this group.
We believe that there will be 3 women who are all Israeli and in very bad shape. That's what we've been told by multiple sources. The hostage families have been told this as well. Ruby Khan was there all last week talking to all the negotiators, talking to Brett McGurk. He knows that his son has died, but he wants his son home, as do the others, the 4 Americans who have been killed. But there are 3 surviving Americans, and we believe that the elderly, Keith Siegel, likely to be one of the first out. He's 65 years old. Another likely person is Sagi Jekyll Khan, and then, Egan Alexander. But, we can't really be specific. We're being very careful about this. We're trying not to, get anyone's hopes up, but we believe that they will be coming out among the first group.
Well, we are going to speak to Sige Dekelhen's father coming up momentarily. We will ask him what he knows. We pray he is among those. Andrea, thank you so much for being here on just a significant moment. It is. It's
just one quick point. Road. Bill Burns made 19 multi-country trips. Tony Blinken, 13, just since October 7th. And importantly, the president went on October 18th to Israel.
Really important points. Andrea, as always, you deepen our understanding of this just extraordinary moment. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.